Good morning, everybody. And to start off this week, I want to take a close look at how fall has shaped up so far in terms of precipitation patterns. And I think this map tells us a lot. It's from September 1st all the way to October the 9th, and large sections here of the central part of the United States are having an extremely dry fall so far. This again shows you precipitation ranks by climate district. So the closer we are to the number 130, that would be the driest on record, and 1 would be the wettest. Much of the precipitation has been confined here across parts of the West. The wetter conditions you see in California, that was mainly from an event that happened way back in mid-September, but we've continued to see better moisture through the Four Corners states, and of course over here from Florida into the mid-Atlantic up into the East Coast. A lot of this has been from Ian. Pacific Northwest has been very dry. In fact, you look back over the last 14 days, there are places across the West that haven't measured any rainfall. This deepest shade of red really represents where we've not seen precipitation over the last couple of weeks. One of the big stories emerging from this, which we covered last Monday, but I'm going to give you an update on, is what this is doing to the river flow here in parts of the middle part of the United States, mainly what flows into the Mississippi. And just reading a few articles over the weekend, it seems as though there might be a couple of big areas where there are bottlenecks on the Mississippi. For example, right here near Memphis, and then the other one's down in Mississippi near Vicksburg. So I pulled up the latest USGS gauge data, and if you go back here to June 12th, they had a river depth of about 35 feet. And where it currently sits, where this river gauge is placed in the river. Now understand, it's not in the middle of the river, but where it's placed, they're currently at a gauge depth of 4 feet. So the barge traffic, of course, has been heavily affected by this. If you have any comments about this for me, just because I don't live directly on, I'm in the watershed, but I'm 2 rivers removed from where the drainage goes into the Mississippi. So any comments on this, I'd appreciate down in the comments section below. With all that drier weather, we do have a couple of areas like here in Illinois, getting into Indiana and southern Michigan and Ohio, where National Weather Service has issued a field fire alert. But outside of that, we got a frost advisory here today, some dense fog in parts of the southeast. And then about the only place over the weekend that saw decent rains were parts of New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma. So this area right in through here, we still have flood advisories out, flood watches, out for parts of Texas and New Mexico. But just thinking about that soil moisture issue, this is the latest data from NASA. And again, we just use these maps to kind of gauge the pattern overall, but you can see how very dry things are in the midsection of the country. Well, we do have an event that is going to bring rain through this area, and it's really being driven right now by this cutoff low that's south of Alaska, north of Hawaii. You see, what that cutoff low is doing is it's amplifying the pattern into a larger ridge that breaks here over the western United States, and that drives deeper troughs of low pressure through the Canadian prairie, and they set up over the Great Lakes. So with these troughs, we get a big area of high pressure behind them, but that pushes a cold front out ahead of it. We're actually going to tap into some decent Gulf moisture to produce some rain out of this one. But as you play through the end of the week and start next week, what we just continue to see is this highly amplified pattern staying in place. So that means a lot of colder air is going to reside here across this section of the country, while warmth generally stays to the west. To see that all play out, let's go to the high-res NAM first. As you watch the rest of the day today into tonight, the main band of precipitation will likely set up here, such that by early in the morning we'll be pushing that precipitation out of Oklahoma and Texas into Missouri, cutting across St. Louis and coming through central and southern Illinois and eventually Indiana by tomorrow afternoon. Now, the main front is still attached to this deeper low that's moving through Manitoba, coming out of Saskatchewan. And that front's going to bring in a really sharp change in temperature, but also possibly a few bands, one that's along the front and a post-frontal band of showers and storms. The Storm Prediction Center is watching this area for the risk of some of these storms to be stronger on Tuesday. And then the front kind of comes through in the morning on Wednesday into midday Wednesday through parts of the Midwest. It could again initiate some stronger storms. Now that's just a look here at the near term from the high-res NAM. Let's jump out to the European to see where this all goes beyond that. So the main story after we get through Wednesday here is how this deep upper level low just curls up between Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, and the Hudson Bay. So on Thursday morning, we'll see plenty of moisture out ahead of this for the southeast through the Carolinas as the front swipes through. And it's also going to produce possibly some very heavy rain in parts of New England. Now, as this front clears the United States, it will be drier behind it. But the upper level low sits here and spins Friday, getting into Saturday. And there's a reinforcing front that comes through on Sunday. See its position here. And that one behind it could have some snow showers in parts of the upper Midwest, getting into Manitoba and Ontario as we play through the weekend into early next week. I do like this WPC forecast for total precipitation out of this. The heaviest rains, of course, in New England, but better chances of maybe a half inch to an inch of rain down here in the southeast and along that frontal boundaries that comes through Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. I'm concerned about how dry things stay on the backside of this, though. Even with the cooler air coming in, very dry conditions are certainly affecting the winter wheat planting, especially in Kansas. Into week 2, we continue to see drier conditions, so this rain will disrupt harvest, but probably just for a day here in the Midwest. And we continue to see better chances of staying drier than normal as we get out there to the, into that third week of October. It is after this time frame that I'm concerned about the pattern really beginning to pick up momentum. Now, with the cooler weather coming in, we do have to be on the lookout for these chances for frost, and this is the forecast for frost here over the next 7 days. But let's finish it up with a discussion on temperatures. We'll talk South America and wrap this up. Watch the change in the Midwest. While we see 80s building here today and tomorrow and maintaining themselves in the west, very warm conditions in west, the front that comes through on Tuesday, see it here, and Wednesday is going to drop temperatures off at least 20-25 degrees. Then, by Thursday, the cooler air settles in and around the Great Lakes, while the west stays very warm compared to normal, buying them more time to finish this season. And by Friday, the cooler air spreads into the East Coast. Now, the warm-up that's happening here is temporary because on Saturday into Sunday, the next reinforcing shot at colder air comes in. So we could start off the week here with high temperatures in the 80s and finish this next 7 days with high temperatures struggling to get out of the 40s in this section of the country. From there, I just want to show you that the pattern tends to favor through the next 10 to 15 days more ridging west and troughs east. So it's going to be hard to break over to sustained warmth across the eastern half of the United States. In South America, just to wrap this up, there's kind of a very narrow band of heavier rain from Santa Catarina through Paraná into Mato Grosso do Sul. It gets over toward Bolivia, but clips a big section here of Mato Grosso. Interior sections of Brazil still wait on the monsoon to fully arrive, but the models trended even drier in Argentina over the weekend, and that is a major issue with drought at this time of year in this section of South America. But just to check in on the planting progress, right now in Mato Grosso, they're at 18.6% planted as of Friday. A year ago it was about 20.3%, so well ahead of the 5-year average by about 8%, but we do expect this to continue to stay on the above normal side of the trend line here. So we'll keep an eye on it. I'll include more of this in my in-depth report tonight, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Thanks.